One of my favorite winter projects is making pom-poms. So I'm going to show you how you can make them with the pom-pom maker and then how you can turn them into a wreath. Here's what you'll find in your box: a variety of yarn in different colors and thicknesses, a glue gun with glue sticks to attach the poms, a set of 3 different size pom makers, floral wire, which is there to attach the jingle bells, and then satin ribbon to add a bow to your wreath, and lastly, a board wreath form to attach everything to. So these are the 3 sizes that come in your pom maker kit. So there's a small, medium, and large. For the purposes of the pom wreath project, we'll primarily be using the medium and the large pom makers. So this size here creates a roughly this size pom, and then this size here creates these smaller poms here on the sides. So each pom maker has 2 halves that just slide together, and each half has flaps on the sides that allow us access to be able to wrap the yarn around. So to start with, you're going to have the 2 halves slid together, and then you're going to open both flaps on one side, and we're going to start wrapping yarn around this. So I tend to hold the loose end just in one hand and then wrap with the other. And these move around a little bit, but as you get more yarn wrapped around these half moon shapes, it keeps it together. So I tend to wrap and then push the yarn close together. So the more yarn you wrap around, the denser and fluffier your pom will be. You can definitely play around with adding more or less yarn to your poms. I like to add a fair amount so that the poms are pretty fluffy. But you can also, get more poms out of your yarn if you make them a little less dense. So I tend to get a good base layer of yarn, and then I just keep on wrapping until I'm about even with this edge of plastic. Okay, I've gone several rounds there, and I'm about getting to the edge of the plastic here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop wrapping around this side and do the other side. So you're just going to trim your yarn, and then you close this to kind of secure that, and then repeat the same thing on the other side, trying to wrap the same amount of yarn around as you did on the first side. So I'm getting close to being done wrapping, but what I do is I close this to just compare the 2 sides to see if I need to add more. And I think I do need to add just a little bit more. So that looks fairly even to me, so I'm going to go ahead and stop wrapping and trim this side. So next step is to actually cut along the edge here to separate all of those loops. So you want to make sure you're holding this securely together so the yarn doesn't pop out before you get a chance to tie it all together. But there's a little groove in the center here, so you find it with your scissors and then start trimming. Okay, so once you've trimmed everything, one thing I do is just check to make sure that there's no yarn that escaped my scissors and that there's a clear path around the center here. So now it's time to tie it all together. So take another strand of yarn, and as far as length goes, just think about how you're using it. For the pom project, we're not going to need that much of a tail to be able to tie it onto the wreath form, but if you're using this for something else that might need a longer length of yarn, you can keep that in mind. There's a lot of different ways to use these. You could do ornaments, you could wrap it around a gift, all different fun things. So now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to find that center groove and slide it in there. So once you've got it in there, you're going to go ahead and pull it tight and tie it. And I like to do multiple knots, and sometimes I'll reverse wrap it around again and tie another knot, and then reinforce it with one or two more knots. Okay, so now that that's tied together, you can remove the pom maker. So I kind of flip this open. And then you can pull the two halves apart. So now you have your pom that just needs a little bit of a haircut, and you can trim it just a little bit to get the little scraggly ends, or if you want to create a really smooth surface, you can trim it a lot. I leave these two tails. I don't cut these because this is what I'm going to use to attach the pom to my wreath form. So just go ahead and cut some of these straggly bits. And then what I do is I kind of fluff it, I shake it. You will get yarn fuzz all over you during this project. And then you can kind of see where maybe it's a little lumpy or uneven, or it doesn't have that like nice round pom shape. So you can go in and trim from there. You can kind of rotate it to see how it looks. It's easy to just kind of keep going and finding more pieces that you can trim down. So sometimes I just start gradually so that I don't have to keep compensating for over trimming a certain side. And also, if you know, as you put this on the pom wreath, they get kind of squished together, so it's not like you need this perfectly pristine round shape because it's all going to be grouped together. So I think I'm going to go easy on the trimming and stop there. But again, if you want to maybe change the size or make the surface look even smoother, you can continue to trim. And also it tends to be with thinner yarns. If you use a thinner yarn, they need more wrapping on the pom tool and then more trimming in the end to get a really fluffy, dense looking pom. But there you have it. That's how you make a pom with a pom maker. So once you have a bunch of pom-poms made, you can go ahead and start filling your wreath form. So I have 3 different colors of poms and 2 different sizes here, so I just like to play around with alternating the colors and sizes as I go. So to attach it to the wreath form, you simply take the tails and position the pom where you want it. And some might go smack dab in the center of the form, some might kind of go off to the side. So you can just kind of play with rearranging them as you go. You can also kind of lay everything out ahead of time if that helps you, or you can just dive in like I am. So I'm wrapping the tails around. I like to wrap it around the form a couple times just to make it extra secure. And then you can flip it over and tie a knot. Like that. And I'm going to leave these tails for now. And then just continue to move around the form and add the poms until it's full. So now I've added all of my poms and I still have these tails kind of sticking out. I like to leave them long because I think it's easier to kind of rearrange and reposition poms if I decide to as I'm moving along. But once everything's set in place, then I go ahead and trim and secure them with some hot glue. So I'm just going to flip this over. Go ahead and trim that tail down. And then I add a dab of hot glue over that knot. So I mainly focus on adding the hot glue to the back to secure everything. But if you flip it over once this is set and there's some poms kind of out of place, you can also add a little dab of glue kind of between the front of the board and the pom as well to really secure them in place. So I'm just going to work my way all the way around, trimming and securing each pom with hot glue. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some bells to add a little shine to this wreath. So I'm going to be using the white floral wire and these jingle bells. And you can add however many you want in whatever way you want. It's really easy to do with the floral wire. These pieces are pretty long, so you can even fold them in half and cut them so that you can make your wire last longer. So to attach the bell, I'm simply going to wrap this wire around the bottom and kind of twist it in there, and then take this end and wrap it around. And you can just simply fold this over and pinch it closed. So you don't have to tie a knot or anything like that. Kind of hard to see in all of the yarn here. So I've simply got this one end just folded over. And since it's wire, it will stay elevated above the surface of the board, plus all of the poms around it kind of help buoy it up. So that's how you add the bells, super easy. And you just keep going around the wreath until you filled it up. So I'm gonna stop there with adding my bells because I'm gonna leave a spot for a bow at the top. And I just did them in a variety of little clusters, some singles, some groupings of 3. I like to go with odd numbers because I think that looks good visually. You can also, group yours differently, just have fun playing around with it. So once you have all your poms and your bells on your wreath, you can go ahead and add some ribbon if you choose. Your kit comes with a mint ribbon, but you can also substitute other ribbons if you choose. So I like to fold the ribbon in half to create a loop up above. And then I slide the end through the loop. And then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and tie my bow. And I'm just gonna do the bunny ear approach with 2 loops and then tie them. And then just make adjustments. I find that with this satin ribbon, the shorter or smaller the loops, the more kind of full and perky it looks. because it is kind of a heavier ribbon, so it'll droop if the loops are longer. There you go. You can leave the tails long or you can trim them short. You can trim them on an angle, or if you want to do a chevron cut, you can take the ends like this. So I'm just folding it in half and cutting from the center out at an angle. So then you get that cut. So trying to cut the other one roughly the same length, lining that up. Helps to hold it taut. There you go. And so you can then go ahead and hang this up by looping the ribbon onto something, or if you want to add extra security, you could use a spare piece of the floral wire and wrap that around to create a little hanging loop as well. There are a lot of other projects you can make with poms other than a pom-pom wreath. So I have just a couple examples here. You can create pom ornaments. You can use them as gift toppers instead of bows. Or you could even braid together some yarn and tie some poms on for a pom-pom garland. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you had a lot of fun creating pom-poms and that you join us again for our next project. In the meantime, if you post your pom creations to Instagram, please tag us with #PaperSource.